Charlie, friends, the phrase "you don't know what you're doing" is one often heard at football grounds across the United Kingdom, often as banter between rival teams, and is also one which I have uttered many times when crass and stupid politicians have made ill-informed decisions, which ultimately end up costing money and sometimes careers. It would appear rather apt, therefore, that a member of Welsh Labour, the Deputy Economy Minister Lee Waters AM, has finally admitted what many in Wales thought was true about the party. They do not know what they're doing with regards to the economy of the country. Mr. Waters commented today that for 20 years we've pretended we've known what we're doing on the economy, and the truth is we don't. Everybody's making it up as we go along. A transcript of his comments, source Wales Online and link in the description below, stated that at a meeting of the cooperative sector at a lunch in the Clink restaurant at Cardiff Prison, Mr. Waters said there's a degree of disappointment amongst some people who feel that devolution hasn't achieved its potential. For 20 years we've pretended we've known that we know what we're doing on the economy. The truth is we don't know what we're doing on the economy. Nobody knows what they're doing on the economy. Everybody's just making it up as we go along, and let's be honest about that. We've thrown all the orthodox tools we can at growing the economy in the conventional way, and what we've achieved static GDP over 20 years. The levels of GVA per head now are the same as they were in 1999, and that's not from a lack of trying. There's no failure on the part of ministers and civil servants. Boy, have they tried. But it's an approach that has its limits in Wales, and we now need to try a different approach. GVA, gross value added, is a variation on GDP, gross domestic product, and is used to measure the average contribution per head of individuals to a regional economy. Wales, like Scotland and Northern Ireland, is seen in this context as a region of the UK. Over the last 21 years, Wales has fallen back slightly, meaning economic productivity is now even further behind the UK average than it was in 1998. Mr. Waters said, as part of the alternative approach, Wales needed to experiment and needed to fail and say, that's okay, we learn from that failure and iterate and we move on. He said the Welsh Government had set up a £3 million experimental fund, while the Cardiff Capital Region, a consortium of 10 local authorities in South East Wales, was looking to have its own £3 million fund operating in a different way, which would enable comparisons to be made. The Welsh Government would be pump priming through the experimental fund, which will be open to bids over the summer from the cooperative sector in areas such as social care and food procurement for local schools. Mr. Waters added, what we don't want is more bloody pilot projects. Devolution has been littered by toolkits and pilot projects which then don't get mainstreamed. They're perfectly worthwhile and successful in their own right, but they have their limits. How can we hardwire? How can we spread and scale success? We're looking at the public service boards set up under the Future Generations Act, which at the moment haven't scratched the surface of their potential, in my view. How can we link them to this agenda and say, right, run the risk. This is the Future Generations principles in action. Make this happen. And how can we make sure that the experimental results which are throwing up success stories can be immediately mainstreamed through the delivery of public services? That's the challenge to them. He said that in Preston, Lancashire, they had made a success of local public procurement, where local businesses were successfully bidding for contracts in areas like school food provision. If they can do it in Preston Borough Council, which is the size of Swansea, we can do it here, said Mr. Waters. He said there was a danger in focusing too much on inward investment and so-called anchor companies, when such firms could up-anchor and go elsewhere. More attention should be given to local firms that were grounded and provided a foundation for the local economy, he argued. Mr. Waters also joked about his precarious hold on the Clefley constituency, saying, as many of you know, I've got the smallest majority in Wales, and no Assembly Minister AM for Clefley has ever been re-elected. So that focuses your mind about where it is and why it is you're here for and what you can do in the time frame you have to work with. I've got 18 months to make this worthwhile before I scuttle off and do something else. In response to this article, Mr. Waters wrote on Twitter later that my point is that in a rapidly changing environment, with automation and Brexit, no government in the world can claim to be in control of the economy. That is why we need to experiment, learn and scale. He later added that he preferred tweeting about his footwear. Oh dear. Obviously, Mr. Waters is coming for a lot of stick about his comments, but he is quite stunning and brave in one way to admit that Wales is economically screwed at the moment as a nation. And yes, it does need to change course, bearing in mind that it's over 22 years now, I think, since Wales voted to devolve power to Cardiff Bay in the Senate. For once, it's quite refreshing to see a politician from an establishment party give a good account of the failings of his party, and hopefully this will make Welsh Labour listen and maybe they'll take note. Then again, maybe they'll find it easier to sack Mr. Waters in the near future than admit to their many and various shortcomings. Charlie, friends.